Tim of the Jefferson County Commission. I'm really excited. I'm always excited anytime I have the opportunity to talk to students. Now, let me just give you a point of reference. So go ahead right now and like, click, and share, right? You got to do that. So we are having lunch with one of the interns that have been so gracious to allow herself to work along in my office. And so that being said, I want to share with you about Youth Leadership Birmingham, okay? And so she was at this particular meeting and she wanted to come in and intern. So today she has to ask me questions. Now, you've seen me before. I've talked to other students. So again, I want you to like, click, and share. We're not going to be with you today very long, but I do want you to make sure you're inviting people into this conversation. And why? Because we have so much negative news as relates to with our children, right? But here's an opportunity where you can see someone that is doing the work, doing what it takes in order to be successful and being very intentional about it. So I'm hoping that you're able to hear me. If you're not, make sure that you go ahead and put that on the screen and we'll make the necessary adjustments. But without further ado, her name is Khalees Benson, and she just recently, today is her last day with us, but she just recently went over to Howard University. So for all of you Howard alums, especially if you are a Kamala Harris Howard supporter, I just want you to be able to meet this young lady for yourself. So she's going to be introducing and talking to me, but I want you to be able to see her in action. She's a very beautiful young lady, has an extremely bright future ahead of us. So, like I said before, I'm your commissioner for District 1 and the President Pro Tem, and I want you to join with us very quickly. Invite all of your friends, especially those who have young people, because all of us need to be inspired. Who better to inspire young people than a young person? So, you ready, Khalees? All right, you got it.
So my first question is, what made you inspired to run for county commission?
So her question is, and I hope you all can hear us. She asked, "What inspired me to be a county commissioner?" I will tell you this: I first of all struggled with being a city council representative. I never really wanted to be into politics because I really was not enthused about what I saw. I come out of the entertainment industry, so for me, I wanted representation that could be friendly all the time. Most of all, working all the time. You know, that it was, you know, if you say you were going to do something, I wanted you to be in a position that you actually did it. And so, if I had to say, it's really more divine for me. My husband shared that with me in 2001 about running. I had to really meditate on it because I didn't want to do it. And finally, 2 years later, I came to the determination that me being in public relations, and that's what I do, that God had something bigger for me that had not necessarily anything to do with me. So I'm out here helping people, and I love it.
Okay, my second question is, how was the switch from city council to being a commissioner? What was the adjustment?
Well, the biggest adjustment from being a city council member for Birmingham and coming over to the county commission is learning how the county runs its business. They don't do it like the city. The city has resolutions and ordinances, meaning they're able to make their local laws. Where the county, we are a creature of the state, which means that if it's not expressly written in the Constitution, Alabama Constitution of 1901, we can't do it. And we can only do what they say that we can do. The other adjustment that I had to make is the way they do business as it relates to with the city. If you wanted to engage having certain activities in your district and all of that, I had to learn because you expressly under the county that, okay, so what the county says is that now we got to partner with a nonprofit. The city of Birmingham didn't even work with nonprofits. They've been stopped that. So I had to learn about procedurally how is it that they do what they do. And lastly, I will tell you, we never could direct staff, even with as being a city council member. But I really learned in terms of the committee meetings with the city of Birmingham. We would have our own little agenda, right? And so if you're the chair of that committee, you could be able to say, okay, these are the things we want to address on the agenda. Well, at the county manager says, well, this is what you're going to talk about. You So as the president pro tem, one of the things that I did is what you see right now. I wanted to make sure that where we have been quiet for so long, and people would say, hey, when people go over there to the county, you really don't hear them talk or whatever the case may be. I wanted it to be a situation where we were transparent. And so even with us doing social media and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people don't know I pay for this out of my own pocket because I believe in transparency. And as the president pro tem, I think you lead by example. You can't tell people that they should hold elected officials accountable, and yet you don't teach them by way of allowing people to know the law, allowing people to know how the inside work. So how can you hold me accountable? So as a leader, my job is to say I'm under public scrutiny, and I want to create a venue where you can be able to do that. So believe it or not, this whole social media piece and all of that, that allows us where people can see in the meetings. They don't just get a soundbite from television, they can actually hold us accountable. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, so my next question is what sparked your passion for public policy advocacy, especially for minorities?
Well, because of the fact that I am a woman and I am a black woman, I understand that you cannot really and truly have a seat at the table and not be responsible in terms of how the people in your district are able to see things happening in their community. Excuse me. So, for example, when we use the word advocate, that just means speak up. You got to speak up, and you got to be a part of that community in such a way. And I'll give you an example today. We were talking about bingo in the community. Well, a lot of these bingo places are in Commission District 1, particularly in the Forestdale community. And so I've had some people that ask, well, hey, they're growing and this, that, and the other, so help me to kind of understand what's happening. And I said, well, wait a minute, as a commissioner, I don't hand out business licenses, right? However, if it's brought to the commission's attention in terms of the county manager says, hey, well, we might need to look at these things. Okay, well, let's talk about how that impacts my community. Well, believe it or not, I took an interesting vote today because what I wanted to ensure the citizens in my district is that if you have something in place that's going to stop bingo or whatever the case may be, then I want to know, I don't want the window dressing. Tell me how you're going to do it. If it's going to happen, let's make sure that the citizens know what to expect, how we're going to go about doing it, and if you can't do that, I owe the transparency that I've asked them to have in me. I've got to advocate for them, and if I don't see, mechanisms in place that I believe is going to make a difference, then I'm going to vote no, right? So when we talk about advocacy could be for economic development. Advocacy could be talking about the level of violence that's in our community. Advocacy could be talking about education, which is what you represent. That's what you're involved in right now. You're in high school, right? So even right now, I have, we just did something for Huffman High School for their basketball team. $20,000 to make sure they had all of the athletic equipment that they needed, right? But we're going to also go to minor middle school, minor high school. We're giving them dollars because guess what? When they tell me what they need, my job is to advocate for what they need and to make it happen so it shows up at their school. That makes sense? So when they talk about minority-owned business, I am a minority-owned business myself. I'm a woman, right? By definition of the federal government. And I'm also a black woman. So when I advocate for minority participation even at the county, we've never had a black-owned business to even do the janitorial services for the county. They have that now. Never happened before. We also have different other types of business engagement, whether it be in construction work and that kind of thing. We want to empower communities that are in my district, community in Commissioner Tyson's district, where people can be able to say, okay, what kind of businesses are we doing? And if we have to work within their city to make it happen, then fine. We've been having raggedy roads, right? Well, guess what? In underserved communities that look like you and I, we want to be able to travel the roads safely too. So that's why I've been doing so much road work in our community, and particularly with Forestdale. We paved 18 roads in Forestdale during the pandemic, right? Okay, that's how you change the community. You go down in Fairfield right before the pandemic. We did that main road in terms of um, when you get off, not Lloyd Nolan, but when you get off on Aaron Aronoff. We did Aaron Aronoff Drive. We did Rutledge Drives. These are large roadways in the community. They deserve it too. So if I don't stand up and tell you these are the needs of my district, and I'm going to help put funding in there, and I want to see to the fact that if you drive down those roads, and literally I do that, I believe that the leader leads. So I would literally get in my car and we would videotape, or video rather, all the roads. So if I go back down that road and you had paving, then I'm coming back to the county and say they didn't do that road right. We're gonna get the money. The citizens got to see that road being paved, right? That's the community in which they live. And then I want to make sure it's done right. That's Adams. Might have took it to it to tell you that, but giving you all an example.
Okay, my next question is, how do you think your experiences as a marketing and public relations professional helps you perform your duties as a county commissioner?
Because I believe in transparency. But you got to know, well, what does that look like? So because I do social media, because of the fact that I am accustomed to doing media and what I do, well, I'm making sure that I take those talents and skills. That's what I ran on, is to make sure that, okay, so Commissioner Scales, how do we see you outside of the dais, outside of when you're campaigning? Are you marketing what you're doing in the community? Well, yeah. That's why you got to like, click, and share what we're doing right now. Because when you go to this page, you'll be able to see those roads being paid. You'll see the checks that are given out in the community to meet community needs, right? And so, though that marketing aspect has allowed me to make sure that my constituents are well aware of this is how you promote Commission District 1. Who actually lives in District 1, like the cities, the unincorporated areas, right? And then drawing attention to those areas through my own marketing skills.
My next question is, how beneficial do you think your training and education in governmental studies such as Leadership Alabama or Harvard Kennedy has been, especially with your now majorly in studies?
Well, in short, because I know you got 20 questions, so I'll make this one short. What development courses have done for me is to help me to perfect my representation for my constituents. It really doesn't matter how much you talk and do. It has to transfer to results. And so what it allows me to do is to see how other cities, how I can hone in on certain policy aspects and to make it work for my district. Every time I go somewhere, I just finished Leadership Alabama, as you just talked about. Finished that in June, and that's leaders from across Alabama and how we come together. And so you're going through a year-long training, or a little less than a year. So shout out to those who with leadership, Kate Cotton and Ashley, right? But I will tell you, when you see how others are doing well and setting policies to be able to get monies to their districts and so forth, or to their county, it makes a difference. So every time I get the opportunity to apply for a developmental type of course, whether it's with Harvard Kennedy School, Leadership Birmingham, Leadership Alabama, I'm going to apply for it so I can perfect my craft and be the real leader and the change that I want to see.
What do you feel is the strongest asset that intergovernmental professionals?
The strongest asset to me is talking to other governmental bodies and making sure that as you're relating, like with the county, we have 35 cities in Jefferson County. We also have unincorporated areas. Well, what kind of relationships are you building with even those city officials in your district? And I have strong ties with those folks, but guess what? That's what you call intergovernmental. You know, it's not enough to say, okay, I'm at the county, I'm a county official, okay, that sounds good, but who are you relating to? Are you talking to those other officials so that you all have a common goal that we can accomplish results on behalf of the citizens? So the citizens have to pay city, state, county, and federal taxes. And we all who represent those four levels of government got to work together.
My next question is, how important do you think education is for constituents? You already mentioned
gonna tell you this. The one thing that I know is that a real leader understands your job is to educate your community. That means that I got to inform you. I've got to be in a position where um, that transparency I'm looking for, I gotta, like I said about you this morning about passing the torch. Well, how can I effectively pass a torch to a younger person and I've never given you any kind of training? I've really set you up for failure. When I don't do that for my constituents, meaning the voters, and I don't tell you how to get your roads paved, who should you contact on every level of government, how do you streamline what you do, that too is even educating you to a process. If I'm not doing that, then I'm really surrounding my public service for me. I want my constituents to be strong. When I'm not long when I'm gone, even with my constituents in my city council district that are also in my commission district, when I'm long gone, I still want you to be strong. I want you to be able to know how to access your government on every level and make it work for you rather than just being a taxpayer. Yes,
My second or my next question is what inspired you to support young people?
well, I believe that's a divine calling for me. A lot of people don't know that I am a minister, um, and I've always worked with young people. That was always, as they call you, Achilles' heel. That was always my Achilles' heel. I genuinely love young people, and I recognize that if you really want to be successful, you got to have successors. Meaning that when I say that I'm successful, then who can you say that you have helped to take on the mantle when you leave, right? And so young people inspire me because you all have a, just like I did, you have a fearlessness about yourself. And I love it. And rather than to try to compete with you, I embrace that. And I say, you know what? As a young person, you be the legs and let me be the head, but together we make one body and we're successful, right? Because one day when I move on and you got to do what you need to do, I want you to be able to be young and do that. And then pass on the torch and live to be able to see that other young person behind you. It's kind of like paying it forward. And that's what my duty is. Someone paid it forward to me. My job is to pay it forward to you. Your job is to pay it forward to someone else. And then we keep it going.
My next question is how do you feel that your primary education is in any way prepared for your career? So elementary school, middle school, high school, do you feel that that prepared you for your
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, in high school, I always knew that I could work with people. I had this thing coming from, as we would call it, the ghetto. I didn't have anything. School to me was my way out. And when you understand that you don't have, you learn that as a young person, I can either dream a dream and try to work toward that dream, or I can be in fear and doubt myself and therefore become a statistic, right? So I didn't want to be a statistic. My attitude in short was I'm gonna make it out of it. I'm gonna make it out of the ghetto, and I'm gonna help prepare other people to be their best self, right? So when I was in school, I actually loved school. I mean, my mom thought like, wow, I didn't even want to miss a day of school. When I got to college, had a little bump in the road, you know what I mean? I got married at 20, started a family very early, but I then I went back and I learned that, truthfully, that's why I give so much money from the district to education. We just helped a student who, by the way, is going to Harvard, speaking of Harvard Kennedy School. And we were fortunate enough to be able to raise $28,000 to help him supplement what he needed so he could have, that pledge forward. Well, the truth of the matter is, if it had not been for those teachers who saw something in me, and I thank all of my teachers along the way because I promise you, had that not they not sown that seed in me, I probably wouldn't have the nurturing spirit that I have toward young people like yourself. That I can see you and say, "Oh, hold up, what's your cash app?" Now y'all all can't cash app me now. I'd be broke. But yeah, that's why I do it. So yeah, those coming through school and going to middle school, high school, and having the experience of even the lunchroom folk, believing and cheering me on, it prepared me for where I am. Taught me how to treat people. as human beings and not a number.
My next question is, what made you choose transparency as one of your personal values, not just as a professional reason? So, what makes transparency important to you?
I never like people to lie. I know lie is a strong word that people say, you're in politics, you shouldn't say that. Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. That was one of the turnoffs that I had. I saw a lot of people saying one thing, but they did absolutely the opposite. So, I always tell people if you have a problem with the word lie, then lies in the Bible, we'll just talk to God about it. If you're being untruthful, you being dishonest, to me that means that that's a character flaw. And so, none of us are perfect, but I just don't believe that you got to lie your way into what you say is the truth. No, I just think a lie is a lie. Perfect your craft, do what you say you're going to do, and just do right. And I believe that everything else will follow.
Okay, my next question is, how important is it to have a quality team?
Well, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. You can't do all. I have 5 cities within my commission district, and to be very candid with you, if I did not have a staff who could help me to be able to do that, then I'm no good to my constituents. My constituents, they shouldn't have to have the responsibility of the daily operations of my office. All they should know is that when I call Commissioner Scales' office, she has a dedicated staff who are well able to help us to be able to get what we need. And Rome wasn't built in a day, but it certainly wasn't built alone. So you got to have a qualified staff. You got to have people to help you. And once things happen, I'm never opposed to giving my staff the rightful credit that they deserve, and you get it through the check. Yeah, I can pat you on the back, but when you pay people right, you can't help but to keep good quality folks with it. And I'm dedicated to them as well.
Okay, so how important is it to build a professional brand?
Well, I'm gonna just say this. Coming from someone that does marketing for a living, your brand is who you are. If your brand is transparency, then that's what you should represent. If your brand has to deal with a person of action and results, then that's what you should represent. If your brand is that you love people and you are empowering people, then that should be what you are. Your brand is your name. And I come from the Bible scripture that says a good name is better than riches. So you can have all the money in the world, but if you got a bad name, it really doesn't matter.
What would you say is your biggest tip in essence of social and business development?
I would say my greatest business tip that I tell people is that you reap what you sow. You invest little, you get little. You don't perfect your craft, someone else will. Never expect of people what you're not willing to give yourself. If you want to be the best at what you do, strive to do it and be intentional about it. If you're looking to be successful, what does that look like? Is it just about money in the bank? Or is it about you having a legacy and money in the bank? Is it about you having to compromise your character? So for me, I'm not going to compromise. There's just certain things I refuse, not in the name of politics, to compromise. And one of them is I'm not going to compromise my integrity. If you don't want to hear the truth, I'm probably not the one that needs to represent you. If you want to hear the truth, then I am one to represent you. Y'all got to understand too, we are live and we're at the fish market, right? So if you see people coming through the door, then just know we're not being rude. We're out having lunch, and we want to make sure that we talk about what we need to. But yeah, I just believe that um, if you're going to do anything, me being a commissioner is my job. Me owning a business is still a service that I provide to people. And when people leave me, I want it to be because they had some better experience than what they came with. Make sense? Yes. That's my biggest tip now. Don't expect what you are not willing to give.
What is the most important or valuable lesson you have learned while working in the public political
Uh, Never forget that people are human beings too. I think once you see so many faces, you read so many documents, truthfully, people won't tell you in this arena that you didn't become a number, right? The more I'm around my people, I believe that a good shepherd smells like sheep. If I'm not smelling the sheep around you, you're not really representing people, you're just talking. So I'm always aware of one of my greatest lessons is to know you still a human being and you represent human needs. And when I get out of the human needs business, then I'm going to get out of politics, as you all call it. I'm a government official, as I call it. But if I forget that you're a human being, then I'm going to be very candid with you. And you know this since you've been around me. What you see on camera is what you get behind closed doors.
Okay, my next question is how do you balance your time and schedule? What's your best advice?
You got to take some time for yourself. Um, I haven't always lived a balanced life. I'm in the process of really and truly, if I have to be honest with you all, balancing my life. I am one that I work around the clock. And I'm learning because I'm getting older. Your body is going through different changes. You have to recognize that I've got to allow myself some downtime. And I know a lot of times my consumers say, oh, we love you, and I love you too. I love you too. But I know that you love me enough that you want me to have some time to myself. And I'm learning, even in the daytime now, I'm learning to say, I gotta take a deep breath, and I just need me some time to myself. And if I'm not balancing that, I'm really no good to my constituents. Because if I'm dead and gone, hey, the governor will appoint someone to my seat, and I'm gone. Gotta take care of yourself.
Okay, my next question is what are some essential qualities for success in your opinion?
Well, some of the essential qualities that you gotta have is that preparation. Preparation meets opportunities. Opportunities don't meet a non-prepared person, right? So we got to be intentional about, well, what does preparation look like? What you're doing right now. You're understudying under someone who is supposed to have a skill of such in terms of working for government, right? In addition to that, we've got to say, what does the next level look like, and am I willing to make the sacrifice? See, what you're doing right now is giving up your son to come intern with me. You could be at the beach yourself. You could be out having fun yourself, right? Okay, but you are giving up something. What are you willing to sacrifice in order to get to where you're trying to go? And I will also say this because I have many tips that I can give people. But in order for you to be successful, you got to lead by example. Even in your age, you could be doing something else. You're choosing to be successful on purpose. So because of that, that's why we're here today. So what does success look like? It has to be a balance, but it also has to have intentionality in it. That means I got to give up something. And if I'm willing to give up something, then I've paid the cost to be the boss.
My next question is how did you recover from any professional mistakes that may have been made earlier in your career if you have, or if you have had any that you had recovered from, what made that successful for you?
I will tell you, back in 2013, I became a council member in 2009. Didn't realize as a businesswoman, because I had been a business owner much longer than I had ever been on the council. In fact, I hadn't even been on the council a year. And that was an issue that came up, and I didn't realize just by calling the city government to do what I normally would ask them to do. I didn't know that I was violating a law of such, right? So I had an ethics violation to come up, and it's different when you say you broke the law. Okay, well there was an ethics violation, and what I had to learn is go study the policies and procedures that govern your job, because if I don't know that I am violating a law, you break the law again, right? And so even though it was just a simple phone call and all of that, politically, there was another public official who tried to ruin my life privately. I'm talking about as a business owner and otherwise as a result of it. So what I had to learn, study the policies and procedures of any job, any craft, anything that you do, learn what are the policies, what are the procedures that surround that job, and then make the necessary changes. And I'm for the better because now I can beat you saying, no, hey, what does the law say about that? Because I had to learn within myself, there are things that, certain freedoms, for lack of better words, that I lost. I didn't realize that kind of going into my job. And so now, I'm back understands, yes, ma'am, the policies and procedures. Now we can continue on. Yeah,
Okay, almost done.
that's okay.
What experiences do you hope to gain in your time serving?
Uh, the experience that I have is what I really cherish is with you, with young people like yourself, to look into your eyes and be able to see like, okay, she get it. Okay, there's hope when I know I can have a positive input into a young person's life because I got to depend on you. Other people out here in the community, we're depending on you to be able to get it right. You're going to get some things wrong, but I don't want you to get everything wrong, and especially in the part that matters. So for me, to be able to have the experience of being in your eyes and can look at you and say, okay, yeah, I'm making a difference. That experience, is priceless. You can never pay for that. You know what I mean? That's something that when I'm out of office, I can be able to point my grandchildren and my great grandchildren to that and say, okay, because believe it or not, I'm the first African American city council member that in 2009 to be elected, first black where I was. This in this role, I'm the first woman where I am, right? So that means that I'm standing on some shoulders, and so because I'm standing on those shoulders, I owe it to you to have an experience that never lets me forget why I'm at the table.
Okay, last question.
All right. Last question, y'all.
What do you hope to provide to the public in your time?
Change. If I had to put it in one word, change. Uh, Change to me is how were things before she got into office? What were the results that she was able to deliver? And in fact, my slogan as a commissioner is action, not promises. Many people, when they're running, that's all they're doing is they promise, promise, promise. That's fine. What did you deliver? What results can the people say for the better? That when Commissioner Lashunda Scales represented me, did she get everything done in her 4 years? No, not especially when it took years for you to get there. But can you now say in Fairfield, she got 3 major thoroughfares paid? She invested in the Miles College. She made sure that everything that she could touch on behalf of the county and that city government, it happened. In Forestdale, you can be able to see in unincorporated Jefferson County that streets are getting paid. The fire district, District 1 and District 2, meaning that fire districts, that they can be able to say, hey, with this federal money, we're able to get trucks, we're able to bring emergency services to the constituents, right? You can be able to say in Adamsville, we just did over $200,000 in road pavings there. Minor Parkway in front of Minor High School, right? We're getting these roads paid over a $1.6 million project. Docena is in unincorporated Jefferson County. Got all the rest of the roads that were unpaid paid since I've been in office, right? And that's less than 4 years. So we're about action, not promises. Got any more questions? So let me ask you. I know you all want me to answer this. If you don't, I'm gonna throw it in there. What can you say that you feel like since you've been interning in the office that you learned?
Oh man, okay, I learned so much. I think I've learned a lot about public administration. I've learned a lot about what it means to serve. One of the things that you'll get when you call the office is how may I serve you? Because it's important to, as I'm learning, to also put it into practice. So I get quizzes daily about what I've
Good.
learned, policies that I've learned, and I've learned a lot about what it means to really serve the public and what it means to be transparent in that and what it means to serve.
Wow. So I will conclude with this because I know that you all have been watching, but I want you to like, click, and share. Her name is Khalees Benson. You got a Facebook page? Tell them what your Facebook page is.
It's Khalees Benson, K-A apostrophe capital L-I-S-E and then B-N-S-O-N.
Okay. Khalees Benson. And so we had Jakaya, last year, and I want to give a special shout out to Victoria Thompson. She has a Facebook page as well. Young lady, went to Howard University, graduated. Now she's getting her master's in theology, got it now. So she has a big event that's coming up this weekend. And I cannot say enough that when you and I, when we work together, we will be that change that we got to see. Don't forget to like, click, and share on all of our social media platforms. And again, don't ever forget, we will be the change we got to see.